don't crack through. Feel the wind blow. Keep pushing forward, never let go. Feet to the pavement, riding out love through all the hard times. We're standing strong. Momentum's building dreams inside. We won't be stopping. We own the night.
They stole away. It's us versus them. Are you gonna fry in hell on earth alongside the pink boys? Or will you pull the wool over your own eyes and accept Bob into your mind? Repent, quit your job, slack off,
That's all right.
and
We're gonna take
praise
over.
Bob!
Church of the Subject is eternal salvation or triple
You
your
got no
money
place to
back.
hide. This is Lavernius Jackson. I'm back to report. As a man on the street, I'm watching you. And I'm going to tell you what's going on in the smoky offices of the men you suspect. You're right. You've been paying attention, and I'm proud of you. You're going to make it. Behind each one of the bigwigs in the smoke-filled boardrooms of the conspiracy's New York bunkers is a shadowy consultant, telling him how to deal his cards. And while the human insiders might squabble amongst themselves, the men in black behind them work as one. Bob knows. Bob has sat in on their calm, civilized get-togethers. He's noticed that the slightest ghastly murmuring from one of these creatures is enough to make a senator break into a cold sweat. A prime minister will suddenly change his tune. A CIA operative will inexplicably decide not to give the complete report. When the migraine machine is activated in those boardrooms, all the arguments with the plan are cut short faster than Darth Vader's mind beams can choke a Death Star captain. And that's pretty fast. Let us note in passing that the true symbol of the conspiracy, called by some the Illuminati, which is actually just one important sect, it is not the eye in the pyramid, for that is the symbol of the elder gods, with the little seen red emblem of a plastic spoon, fork, and knife, partially crossed in an ill travesty of the Christian cross death sign. The reason for this stupid logo, plastic, because that is the nature of it all. The eating utensils, because they eat us. They are cannibals, not so much in the sense of devouring human flesh, for they do that only on special occasions, but in the sense that they consume our energy. The men in black do eat human flesh as often as possible, and they draw off of our psychic juices. They're small-timers in compared to their masters. Despite their preternatural powers to vanish at will and overcome minds, they are the least alien of all the Watchers. Their squelching of human initiative is done indirectly, through humanity's would-be leaders. The other Watchers, they operate with considerably less subtlety, and they have done so throughout history. They wiped out the dinosaurs on a picnic, just as we killed off the buffalo. The Ice Age was caused by their version of atomic testing. They introduced human sacrifice to the Mayans in the Yucatan, the Incas in Peru, and the Aztecs in Mexico. They were the disgusting abominations who enslaved the Sumerians and spread the worship of false idols like mathematics and astronomy all throughout Babylonia while appearing in the guise of the fishman Oannes. The Easter Islanders dropped their chisels, stopped carving Dobbs heads, and took their canoes overnight with the amphibious lobstermen of Dagon started swarming ashore. The giant runways, the landing pads at the Nazca Plain and the others in South America, vast scary figures with paranoid eyes and gnashing teeth, visible as such only from the air, were painstakingly etched into the rock by those Indians, not as invitations to the gods, but as vain attempts to scare them away. You want a place to hide? There's no place to hide. And these ancient Hebrews didn't think it was too funny either when the huge, noisy heliopters abducted and brainwashed Ezekiel and Elijah and rained diseased frogs on the Egyptians, turned the rivers into blood. In fact, much of the time they mistook them for Yahweh's angels, just as today's holy rollers mistake demonic possession for the spirit of Jesus. Men in black appeared to Abraham to tell him that his barren, aged wife Sarah. What the fuck's going on in here? Oh, come on, Lavernius. Ooh. Oh man, this guy. I'm gonna have to call somebody about this. Yeah, this Lavernius situation is getting a little bit out of hand. We're gonna have to figure out a solution to get this guy, back in his cage. Oh, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. We'll get him shut down. I'll call my boys over in Great Britain, see what they can get done about it. Yeah. Let's go back to fifth generation warfare. Last time we left off, I believe we were talking about the two-stage communist revolution, the Great Reset, and how that's going to work. Marxist-Leninist revolutionary theory maintains that a two-stage communist revolution is needed to replace capitalism. Really, it says it's needed to replace any system that pre-exists. In a two-stage communist revolution, it starts with capitalism, which must be passed through to get to communism via socialism. Socialism is the first stage and communism the second, thus a two-stage communist revolution. This is the goal for the state and non-state actors working to establish a new world order and the declared Great Reset as stated by the World Economic Forum. The Uniparty, knowingly and unknowingly, facilitates this two-stage revolution. Uniparty members pretend to be on separate sides of the political spectrum, but on the globalist topics, they equally support the changes. They disregard nationalistic best practices that would help the citizenry. So it goes from capitalism to stage one socialism and stage two communism. Capitalism, socialism, and then into communism. If you read Marx, I mean, it definitely, socialism is the way to get to, it's the intermediary phase to get to the end goal, which is a communist government where the government owns everything and distributes redistributes the wealth equally on lines of equity to the entire population in an equitable fashion. And equity determined by the people in charge, of course. So we're going back into the Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generational Warfare. We got rid of Lavernius Jackson. I don't know what we're going to do with this stuff over here. This stink that he leaves behind every time he's here, just all sticky and pink. Oh my God. I'm going to have to light an incense or something. So, stuck in the middle, contrary to the popular conspiracy theories about a singular shadow government, there is not just one who controls absolutely everything. There are a few shadowy governments, and they use the same tactics and strategies against each other as much as they use them to manage and manipulate the populations within their dominion and control. The people are stuck in the middle. For now, shadowy government threats to America and most of the world have similar generalized goals, and they collaborate with each other until they don't. There are state actors like the Chinese Communist Party with their alliances such as Venezuela, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and the radicalized parts of the Islamic world. And there are non-state actors such as organizations and programs funded by the likes of George Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, the World Trade Organization, and the World Health Organization, among others. Together, they represent the major individual players and external groups who run networks of shadowy government loyalists. These loyalists then develop and promote conditions to support a globalist agenda for the New World Order. Within the United States, there are also threats that support the external groups. Domestically, the combination of political parties working in secret is an example of the smaller shadowy government faction at work. They work on behalf of major shadowy government groups rather than the people of their country. Within legitimate governments, internal political party members have surreptitiously combined their efforts to create a globalist-minded uniparty that is willing to forego the sanctity of its country's values. These uniparties exist in most of the first world countries of the West and most of Asia. Countries on the African continent and those in Latin America should not be excluded. The United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Holland, Singapore, and Canada are countries with strong, globalist-minded uniparty factions within their governments. There are others such as Germany, Italy, and Switzerland who also have ever-growing globalist agendas being promoted through uniparty groups. The uniparty is a term that describes the globalist establishment's control over politics and policy, to the extent that every or nearly every major political party or politician are controlled by them and thus have far more in common than differences policy-wise. It is essentially synonymous with the deep state as it retains control almost regardless of which political party or politician is elected. An example is the general movement by both the Republican and Democratic parties in the United States to continually expand the size and reach of the federal government into every area of one's life. The only significant difference being whether the apparatus should be run by unionized government employees, the Democratic Party approach, or by private sector contractors, which is the Republican Party approach. The uniparty should not be confused with bipartisanship, as the latter views working together as a means to an end, while the uniparty sees different political parties working together as the end in and of itself. The uniparty consistently advocates for a net increase in federal spending without any effort to reduce unnecessary social or defense spending, and both parties have a record of supporting gun control. Marxist ideas have infiltrated both the Democrat and Republican parties. While the traditional mainstream conservative and liberal parties joined together to govern, they've agreed on many agenda items, particularly in advancing big government globalist policies. The same critics also point out that the GOP, or the Republican establishment's readiness to compromise and back down from their stated positions as an example of the uniparty. So that's from Conservapedia. So the Republican Party is the private sector contractors. That would be like Halliburton and Raytheon and those type of contractors. And so the deep state, I think, refers to one side, whereas it doesn't generally refer to the private sector. So the deep state is like part of the apparatus, and maybe something like the blob, what Mike Benz calls the blob, as like the affiliates of the State Department and various cutouts of the CIA. Those are probably more like lined up with, they probably line up with both sides. I don't know. Anyway, interesting stuff. DNC, RNC, Uniparty. The Uniparty is the unified party. So America First representatives defined: election integrity, border security, parental rights, medical freedom, Bill of Rights. Defund Uniparty members and remove them with a fair election process. That's the goal there of the America First Party. That's the goal set. Uniparty members of government. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Typically, the Chinese Communist Party influences world leaders through the World Economic Forum, World Trade Organization, and World Health Organization policies at the global level. The Chinese Communist Party works with organizations funded by George Soros, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg. Together, they manipulate national governments by influencing the top executive leadership appointed by the President of the United States and by replacing them with ever more communistic players. Each person creates a nudge towards the new normal. Then all are replaced by a successor who is more extreme than the last. This process is in continuous development. It occurs insidiously, bit by bit, and a few notice the succession of subtle changes until it's too late. We must stop this type of continual degradation immediately and push back against their new normal campaigns. Yeah, it's that's how they move the Overton window as well. Little by little, creating a new normal. So the inclusion of Zuckerberg in here is really interesting as well. This is from 2022, and I'm not sure if Zuck's turned a corner or if he's playing a controlled opposition type of role. Probably the latter. I'm not sure, but I think that he's also either married to or engaged or tied to somehow a Chinese national. I could be wrong about that, but I need to look up the information there and see.
Bob teased us. All right, well, we are back now with more information about Bob. Bob is turning his way up the eastern seaboard. Bob already, as we said, has moved into Long Island. We check to see whether the situation with Bob...
So basically what we're looking at here is that there's big players that are playing big games, and we're pawns that are stuck in the middle of this whole thing. And so, I mean, what can we really do about it? We haven't gotten to that part yet. I would say what I'm encouraging people to do about it, without really having a lot of in-depth instruction on it, is just focus on your growth. Like, stop with the rabbit hole dives and stop with the black pills and worrying about how the election is going to turn out and everything. Jonathan and I were talking earlier on the Burnt Biscuit podcast about just improving yourself and getting your own goals taken care of, and self-improvement, self-empowerment being the greatest act of revolution that's available to the individual. That's an Andy Frisella. I got to give him credit every time that I say that. I keep going back to it. He's got a real good point there. What's the move, Big Daddy? What's the move, Lavernius? Where do you think you're going? He's stuck in a vortex somewhere. I think it's coming out of here somewhere by this mirror out here. There's a crack up there above the, like behind the bookshelf, like above the little light right there, and I think that's where it's kind of seeping in. Yeah, I don't know really what to do about the whole situation, and I really don't care. This guy showing up and ranting incessantly in the middle of. I just went to go take a bathroom break. I was sitting here talking to Jonathan. We were doing a nice episode of the Burnt Biscuit Gang podcast. We had some really good conversations going on about what we can do to focus on getting yourself into a better position, so that you're not going to go and face down some shadowy puppet government conspiracy, cabal and all these sort of things. You need to focus on what you're doing. You need to put yourself in a position so that when the winter comes, right? And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, it's about winter is coming. So you can call it a wave or a tidal wave. I don't think that it's really anything that's avoidable. I think that if, one person gets in office on the left, it's going to go one route, probably slower. They like to torture their victims. So it's going to take a longer amount of time, but it's going to be a downhill, just like the last 4 years have been, right? And then, the previous 4 years, we had, a lot of growth, a lot of positive abilities that were opening up, and then they hit you with completely a planned and structured. They call it the plandemic. I mean, it's not like they're really able to hide things that well. If you look, you're going to find what's going on. They're not really trying to hide it, and it's because they know. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you and your friends going to do? What are you and your city of people going to do? I mean, come on. What are you and your country going to do? That's where it gets to a point where maybe we have some capability. But if they get us divided, if they get the left and the right in the United States, separating the country and balkanizing the states into different, 5 different territories, they put propaganda out to encourage us to do this stuff. We need to stay unified. We need to stay focused on growth. We need to stay proactive. We need to stay positive. We need to take a lot of the white pills, not the black pills. Take the red pills that Morpheus gives you, to wake up or whatever, to see the reality. But you got to use that and be productive with it. Find advantages and opportunities around being able to have access to that knowledge. So if you can see the tidal wave come in and everybody else is just running around on the beach, well, be that guy who can kind of help some other people to get up the mountain a little bit. And once you get up the mountain a little bit, then you can kind of establish yourself a little bit better. And then when the wave comes in, you're able to help the people that need help. Yeah, I mean, this is good stuff to know. This is really good information to know. We're going to continue to go through this. I don't want to sit here and just read through every chapter and bore you to death it's not like it's a super long or complicated read through, but I do want to be able to break down some of these into a little bit more digestible sound bites. And so we'll have to go through at some point and just do some condensing, some distilling of the information here. That's going to be it for tonight for the Don't Hold Your Breath podcast. We're not going to do anything with the accountability chart today. We had a beautiful celebration of our 10th anniversary of marriage. The wife and I went out and had a nice little getaway for about a day or two. Got back here and did some filming with Marlon and with Jonathan. We went and had like Chick-fil-A, and I had like a Blizzard from Dairy Queen on the way out there. And God, I was just, I don't want it to have anything to do with any of that stuff. I mean, it made me feel so sick. I was like, couldn't sleep. I had horrible heartburn. And I mean, it was kind of like, oh yeah, let's go. It's convenient. But I remember just this last time eating that Chick-fil-A sandwich and the fries, and I remember the aftertaste of it being like flavored cardboard. I mean, it was really awful. And I haven't been eating anything crazy, extravagant or anything like that. I've been eating a lot of steak and eggs. I've been eating, some cheese and fruit and stuff like that. So, and keeping everything within really confined limits. Lots of fruit, lots of plums, melons, stuff that's in season. And just, after that one meal of that cardboard, man, flavored cardboard, really, I remember it as being a lot better. But I mean, I think my body, my mind, my spirit were just in a totally different place. This is an interesting transition. I'm honored to be able to share it with you, this part of my life, this transition of life into a new chapter. Very grateful for everyone tuning in today. Go ahead and hit that like, give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button as well. Doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe to get notifications. You can turn those off if you want, but it's nice if you would turn the notification bell on. Make some comments in the comment section down below. That's going to help us to boost our presence in the YouTube algorithm. It will speed up the ability for us to monetize the podcast. That'll get us some like new equipment, and maybe we'll have better special effects for old Lavernius back here. We can do some cool stuff with entertaining and educating, as well as communicating our journey and helping everyone else maybe have some kind of inspiration, or at least be involved in the growth of us as humanity. Focus on the good, focus on the forward movement, focus on yourself, make yourself into what you know you can be. Pick out of that infinite possibility field of the quantum reality that exists, your future self that you want to be. You're not destined to go down any of those paths. They're all possible, and none of them exist until you observe them. So be here, be now. Love yourself. Love everyone that's connected to you in the same moment. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. See you next time.